Hey, welcome along to the BBQ Talks Show. Today I'm on my own. It's on a Saturday, so it's a special Saturday edition. We're talking to a very special guest. His name is Ben. He runs Smoking Hot Confessions over in the land of Australia. He's coming on for a good old chat about what he's been up to. I'm just about to have a coffee instead of a beer. Normally I've got a beer going on a Friday night, but this morning, just on the coffee because it's frowned upon to have a drink this early. Mind you, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, I suppose. Um, so First, a full word from our show supporters. The Rusty Barbecue can bring you a 10% discount on all of their products. Meta can provide 15% worldwide discount on all of their products. So grab that one. It's a goodie. Glow Baltic, we've also teamed up with to bring you an exclusive 10% off their quality birchwood charcoal. And also, please do go rate and review our show on all the podcast platforms and leave a comment to help us grow as a show and move forward, because that sort of thing's really important, especially on Apple, because they like that sort of stuff. So go check it out and leave a comment and tell us what you've been up to. That'd be fantastic. So this week, our guest is Ben. He's here for a chat about all sorts of good stuff, including his podcast, Competition Barbecue, and the Aussie barbecue culture, and other things along the way, whatever comes up in conversation. So, welcome along, Ben. I'll just call you up and I'll add you to the stream. Where's he gone? I'll add him back down.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you.
All right, give me a second here.
No worries, mate. Oh, wow. As you can hear, the dog's now trying to get in, scratching on the door, as always. But not a problem. I can see you now, mate.
Cheers, I'm really sorry about that. I don't know what happened. The camera's never done that before. It just seemed to decide it was going to just turn itself off. That was really strange.
Oh, don't worry about it. It'll get sorted out in the edit later on, so it'll be fine.
The beauty of editing.
Mm-hmm. Now I've got a chihuahua trying to knock the door down, so I don't know if that's picking up on the microphone, but
it is a little bit, but it's okay.
Typical. Good start to a great show, eh? Right. So so how you doing, mate? You okay?
Mate, I'm great. It's a Saturday night here. It's just past 7 o'clock. It's Father's Day tomorrow. We're not actually going out tomorrow for Father's Day because we're a bit nervous about being around crowds of people at the moment. So we did just a few little Father's Day things today just to try and get in early. And took my son to go see the new Marvel film, Shang-Chi, which was really good. I really enjoyed it. And we were just chatting off air, and I was desperately trying to get some chicken curry into my face because all I've eaten today has been popcorn and Skittles. So I needed to get a little bit of more solid food in my belly to be able to have a coherent conversation with you this afternoon.
Well, mind you, a high octane mix of Skittles and whatnot, you're going to be flying. All them sugar and beautiful colours are truly going to be tasting the rainbow. You'll be
Well, I did buy the family share pack and then didn't share it. So
that's cool. So yeah, so as I said, it's great to have you along. We've been sort of on and off trying to link this up for a long time, but finally managed to get it over the line. So it's fantastic to be talking to you, Ben. So the first off is a sort of like standard question, just to settle in. I know you don't need it because you're a vastly more experienced podcaster than myself. But so can you tell us sort of like where you're from and how long you've been cooking over fire and flames?
Yeah, sure. So I'm from Australia, and I live on the Gold Coast at the moment. But I grew up mostly in the countryside of New South Wales. So I'm a farm boy at heart, and so cooking over live fire just lost that damn camera again. Hold on, it is plugged in. There's something wrong. Hold on.
It just come up with battery exhausted. Oh, the stars are aligning and the gods are frowning upon us. Have a look in the chat. I haven't even checked that yet.
I suspect maybe the charging cable's died on us. I'll just have to quickly swap out cameras. I'll be right back.
No worries, no problem. You see, this is the for everybody who's watching, this is the drama of doing live broadcasting. You never know where it's going to go or what's going to happen. You see, we're flying on the seat of our pants. Good morning, Deb. How you doing? Thanks for watching. Yeah, if you can share it and give it some likes and spread it around, that'd be fantastic, my darling. Oh. Yep, live podcasting. Oh wow. But it's all good. Morning, Steve. How you doing? Bright and early. We're talking to Ben from Smoking Hot Confessions over in Australia. So it should be a really interesting interview about the Australian barbecue scene and everything else that they get up to over there. I've travelled over there myself when I was younger, so got a little bit of experience. Mind you, it all seemed to involve lots and lots of booze and going up and down the east coast. But I wouldn't say that was a typical view of Australia, but it suited me at the time. So also, while we're on here, we have a hashtag Q Together. It's an English hashtag. It's for mental health awareness. So if any of you guys are watching over in Australia or listening over in Australia, use the hashtag Q Together just to build a little bit of mental health awareness, because I think it's a really good thing, and everybody should be having a conversation about that. And if we can sort of raise awareness and help people, that would be fantastic. You know, just for a little hashtag, make someone smile. Can't be a bad thing. Whereabouts on the Gold Coast is Ben? I am not 100% sure. Hashtag. Hi guys, how you doing? A Facebook user. That's cool. And I think he's from the Ugly Drum Group as well. That's good. As I said, please do like, share. That'd be really cool. You'd be able to watch an English guy broadcast. I think if you're actually in the trade, I think it's called padding is what I'm doing at the minute. And it's not a bad thing, I suppose. It's a good learning experience, if nothing else. Just gonna have a slurp of coffee. Might even move a bit closer, get the microphone a bit. I hope the sound's good. Can you all hear that? Is it all coming through loud and clear on my end? Oh yeah, Sizzlefest is happening. Is it this weekend, or is it? No, it's in a couple of weeks, isn't it, Steve? Sizzlefest, is it happening? I'm not going. I think Matt and Tom are, to be honest. So James Hart. It's at the minute. It's a mixture of YouTube and Facebook. We have not many people on, because I suppose it's not the normal time. There's 2 people on Face. There's 2 people on YouTube and 1 person on Facebook. So share it and get some people in. That'd be good. You can all have a bit of banter and a bit of conversation like we normally do on a Friday night. I didn't really publicize it as much, that I should have done, really, because Ben is a cracking guest. He's going to be a really interesting interview. There's not really much he hasn't done over in Australia. And he also has strong affiliations with the Barbecue magazine. So Yeah, he's helped us out and put us in that, and we'll touch on that a little bit later on, or maybe in a different place. But yeah, this is when live podcasting goes a little bit squiffy, but it's all right. It's fine. Okay, why? Yeah, if you want to come along, it makes no difference there. I thought that was some sort of innuendo. I'm gonna have to come and slip out the back door. Hey, Sider, how you doing? We're having a few technical difficulties at the minute, but we're chatting to Ben Arnott from Smoking Hot Confessions. Things have gone a little bit squiffy in Australia, but hopefully he'll be back along in a minute. Oh yeah, Ben definitely knows his stuff. I've listened to his podcast for a while. It's a really good listen. Yeah, you should pop down. You should pop down, Steve. Like if I could, I would. Yeah, I think they are in lockdown from what he said. He said he was going out for not going out for Father's Day tomorrow. But he went to the cinema today, so I've got a feeling it's probably like one of the levels that we had before we come out of lockdown, if that makes sense. I'm sure it'd be fine. It'll all tidy up in the edit. That's why we edit podcasts. I can't believe I've managed to talk for 14 minutes on my jack. That's amazing. You're from north of Brisbane and was in a meeting with him this morning. Okay. So what do you get up to then, James? Are you a barbecuing dude? Obviously, because you're watching the BBQ Talk Show. Well, oh, here comes the missus.
Sorry about this.
That's all right. No worries.
Max.
You what?
No, dog. Ow.
Mm.
I forgot about this buggy going.
Oh, right. You got a buggy going. How you going, Ben? Can you hear us?
Yes, mate, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. That's fine.
Okay, mate, I am so sorry. I don't know what just happened there. I lost the camera. I lost the audio mixer board. I had to drop out of the show and come back in. I don't know what happened. That was really bizarre. So I've actually had to switch back to the rubbish little cheap webcam. So I do apologize. But yeah, I think we're probably good to go now.
Well, the missus has just gone out into the back garden, so I dare say she's going to be charging back in again in a minute. So we just
Okay.
had it. Oh, you've
No, it's
got another.
okay. No,
Okay.
it's all right. There it is. I was just testing to see if I get my wife's camera to connect, but it's being painful now too. So we'll just stick with the cheap USB webcam. I'm here. We're getting good audio. Let's
Mhm.
just roll with that, I think.
Yeah. Well, as I said, it's live, so anything can happen. You got to be ready to rock. I was amazed I managed to pad for like 15 minutes. To be fair,
Mate,
just
you
goes
did
to
very
show.
well. You did very well. I could still hear everything here on my end. You did fantastically.
Oh, thank you very much. That's kudos from you. Much appreciate it. So you got your friend James in the chat. He said he was in a meeting with you earlier.
Oh, James Park.
Yeah.
Hello, James Park. He is Australia's #1 barbecue judge.
Oh, right. Cool. That's interesting.
Mm.
Oh, yeah. He just come up on the comment now. Barbecue Judging Society. Yeah, I've done a little bit of judging for the State Cook-Off Association, but I don't do it anymore. I sort of like done the course and then COVID hit, and I'll probably have to retake the course. I can't really remember much. So, yeah, it's just been a bit of a rubbish couple of years, really, and truth be told.
It's been pretty rough. Yeah. Anyway, did you want to give me that lead-in question again so we can get the recording back on track?
Yeah, I'm kind of waiting for the missus to come through the back door now.
Oh,
'cause
sure. Okay. Sure. Yeah.
we'll just pad a little bit until she comes through, and then once that's done, we're crack on.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's just one of them things. Everything's just come together and sort of turned it into a bit of an interesting show. So this is I'm going to probably edit this and turn it into some sort of blooper for a live barbecue advert. If you want to see the barbecue talk show, just boom, blank, in comes the missus. There's the chihuahua.
Yep.
This is the show. Welcome along.
Ben's camera drops out. Ben's soundboard dies. Ben has to restart everything. Like,
yeah. The
Yeah.
missus, the
So-
wife comes in, grabs a buggy. The chihuahua goes mad. Everything was.
ladies and gentlemen, I promise we are professionals. I promise.
I can't even say I'm a professional. I can pretend. It's fake it till you make it. That's what they say in it.
That's it, buddy. That's it. Yeah. I'm gonna steal a couple more bites of my dinner while we're waiting for your wife to come back in.
Yeah, you crack on, mate. This is, as I said, it's the beauty of editing. It's a live podcast. Unfortunately, it's a shame it's gone like this. Hopefully, everyone's going to stick with us and listen to the interview because I know it's going to be really good. It's just a case of waiting for it to start.
Yeah.
Or restart. Oh, I should have done this. Oh, she might be out the front actually because the ring's going off.
Oh, you got one of those video doorbells.
Yeah.
Same. I got one as well.
To be fair, the missus wanted it. She's tech mad. Like, she loves all that sort of stuff.
Oh, okay, cool.
I wasn't that. The trouble is, like, do you find you watch it just for no reason? Just sort of like, oh, I can be at work sometimes. I think, oh, what's the weather like at home?
I mostly use it to prank people coming and going from the house.
Mm-hmm.
So when my wife comes and goes from the house, I'll just suddenly talk to her from the video camera doorbell and scare her. And
yeah. I think she'd probably come in the front door. She's actually in the front garden now. She's gone around the side, so that's cool. We'll be able to get going in a minute. See, it does have its uses.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Right. I reckon we'd be good to go. She's probably come in the front door now. So what I'll do, I'll just do the lead in again and then we'll start it off.
Just give
Start
me
from
one.
scratch.
Just give me 1 second. No, that's still not going to work. Okay, no, we're just gonna have to go with the rubbish cheap webcam.
Sure. No worries.
Cool. Okay.
All right, let's go. So
Take two.
yeah, restart barbecue talk show. All right. This week our guest is Ben. He's here to. Right. Okay. This week our guest is Ben. He's here for a chat about all sorts of good stuff, including his podcast, Comp Barbecue, and the Aussie barbecue scene. So welcome along, Ben. It's great to have you here. So if you could tell us where you're from and how long you've been cooking over fire and flames.
So you can probably tell from my incredibly sexy accent that I am Australian, and I currently live on the Gold Coast in Queensland. So if you're not familiar with where that is, my wife is American, and she likes to call the Gold Coast the Miami, Florida of Australia. So, we got the beaches, the palm trees, the 300 days of sunshine per year, all that good stuff. So it's perfect for barbecue, absolutely perfect. But I spent most of my time growing up in rural New South Wales, so I'm a farm boy at heart. And one of the things that we had to do was, because bushfires are such a problem over here, was every couple of months, my dad would send my brother and I out into the bush, and we had to go and clean up all the sticks and leaf litter and basically all the ground litter that is just fuel for bushfires. And then we'd go and find an old stump. Someone had cut a tree off and just left a dead stump there. So we'd pile all the wood up around the stump and then set fire to it. And so on the you were doing two things. You were burning off all the bushfire litter, and you were also burning a stump out of the ground. So you're clearing the ground. And what we would then do is we would then run up into the house and grab a saucepan and some sausages and some oil, and then we'd sit there by this bonfire and just pull some coals out and sit the fire pan on the coals and just start cooking that. And I think after we ruined about the 8th saucepan, we finally started to get a bit of a handle on it. So that's when live fire cooking started for me. But I do have memories before that of the good old days in the 80s where you could still have an incinerator out in your backyard and you could burn all your household rubbish each weekend. And my dad would build this fire and he'd burn off the rubbish, and then he'd send me out to run around the yard and pick up all sticks and twigs and stuff. And once the rubbish had all burned off, then he'd put a steel plate across the top. And my grandfather would come around and we'd cook sausages and steaks and potato slices and onions and all sorts of stuff on there. And so I do have some earlier memories, but for me doing the cooking, it'd be burning out the stumps in big bonfires on the farm.
That's pretty cool, burning out big stumps, you know. That's pretty awesome. The closest thing I got to that is I better not say actually, but let's just say there were some children near an area where I lived, and there happened to be a forest. It sort of may or may not have caught fire in some kind of way. These children, they tried their best to sort it out, but then they all went. Well, yeah, as I said, I probably shouldn't have said that. Whoever they were, yeah, we just used to go camping and all the usual sort of stuff. There was a lake near us, which had an island. Go out there, have a fire, cook your sausages, and all that good stuff. So yeah, fairly similar, without the bush. Australian bush with loads of stuff that could take you down quite easily.
Yeah, well, of the 7 deadliest snakes in the world, our farm had 4 of the breeds on them. And my parents made a rule that we were never allowed to go outside and play unless we were in pairs. So there's me and my brother and my sister, and there had to be at least 2 of us, so that if one of us got bit, the other one could run back and get help. Because we were, I think it was about a 40-minute drive out of town. And some of these snakes, from the time you get bit, you've got about 25 minutes. So it was kind of serious. But if you leave them alone, they leave you alone, sort of thing. And they're more scared of you than you are of them. So you just make a bunch of noise and the snakes run away. And so being kids, we'd run around and scream and yahoo and carry on. And our closest neighbor was 2 kilometers away, so no one could hear us. And we had a couple of snakes come in the house, but no one ever got bit. So
that would terrify me, having something like that rock up in my house. I'd be
look, it was pretty scary. My dad was doing some work out in the yard, and he needed to run a power lead out, and so he opened the side door to the house and turned around in the doorway to plug the lead in, and a king brown snake came shooting between his legs and into the house. And so I just hear my dad screaming, Ben, get some gumboots and a shovel, which I think gumboots are what you probably call Wellingtons. And, get some Wellingtons and some shovels and get your brother and sister out of the house. Oh, okay. So when you hear the call for gumboots and shovels, there's only one thing that's going down. So I ran around and I grabbed 2 pairs of gumboots and 2 shovels and got my brother and sister out of the house while my dad was trying to find this snake. And so we then had to pull these boots on and grab a shovel each. And then we're prowling around the house looking for this snake. And we finally found it curled up under an armchair. And so my father turned his shovel on its side, and he used the shoulder of the shovel to hook over the arm of the armchair and just sort of gently slide the armchair out. And as soon as he had enough clearance, he swung that shovel like a samurai sword, using the edge of the blade, and just cut the snake into 3 bits with one hit. And so my job then was to pick up the pieces and go and bury them out in the paddock. And then we had to get the scrubbing brushes and the soap and get the blood up out of the carpet before Mum got home from town, because she would have freaked out with all the snake blood in the carpet.
Good God. I think I would have pretty, I don't blame her, the I don't even have words for that. I'm so scared. That is the one thing in the world I am absolutely petrified of. I don't mind any spiders, sharks, don't really bother me. Snakes, God, I'd probably die of a heart attack if I saw anything like that in my house. And I'm not even joking. Like we went out, me and a few mates, we went over to Australia. We sort of travelled up the coast. And we ended up on this, I don't know, where were we? Just outside Newcastle. There was like this little
Oh,
island place. Had a campsite on it. It was quite. Newcastle isn't very rural, but you don't have to go very far out to get rural because it's sort of like on the
that's
way up the east coast.
that's where I grew up. Was about 2 hours drive northwestern Newcastle. So and I did all my university in Newcastle.
hmm Well, that's small world then, really. But
Yeah,
we went out to this place and on this campsite, and they all knew I was scared of snakes. So there was always the rubber snake being chucked in the tent, or if I was
of
asleep
course, of
hungover,
course.
they'd be sticking stuff under the tent, saying, "Oh, there's a big snake coming under your tent," and all of that. One morning they'd done it. I woke up. We brought this an old car, Ford Falcon. Like it was a wreck, but we we were driving around in it, and yeah. One morning they come up, they'd done all of this, and sort of like it was this old guy. He goes, "Oh, the way you going, mate, looks like you got a snake in your tent." And that was it. I was out like I've never moved so quickly, and from that point, I just slept in the car. I'm not going in a tent no more.
Well, this will freak you out. I do actually know of people who have been driving along the road with the windows down, and they've hit a snake. And when you run over the like a snake's tail, its reflex action is it folds back on itself, it flicks up on itself. And so I
Mm.
do actually know of some people who have sort of just run over the tip of a snake's tail. They've curled back and ended up in their laps in the car.
God, that's like one of the scariest things I could ever imagine. Bombing
Yeah.
along in a motor and then a snake turns up in your lap. Like the job I do, I work for an aerospace company. We make it's Martin Baker. We make ejector seats for fighter planes. It's the type of
Wow.
thing you'd wish you had one in the car. Like,
Yeah, the old
"Gone."
James Bond, Aston Martin, big red
Mm,
button, just push it and gone.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be money well spent. Good God, that would scare the life out of me. Anyway, we've kind of got off the rails a little bit, but it's good chat anyway. So it's always nice to do that. So your podcast, you've been going a while. You started it in December 16, was it? So
Yeah. Yep. December 2016 is when we first kicked off. So Smoking Hot Confessions had been around since January 1, 2015. So I was in a job that had zero creativity in it, and I'm a really creative person, and so I needed a
mm,
creative outlet. And I really loved barbecue, and a friend of mine was into digital marketing and content marketing and stuff, and said, "Mate, just start a blog." And
mm,
she was like, "You cook great barbecue. Just start taking photographs and writing about it, and putting it on the internet." And so that's how it started out, and sort of just evolved from there. And I got into competition barbecue, and went to a couple of competitions and had a bit of a crack at that, and ended up as part of a composite team with a couple of other fellows from some other teams.
mm,
We put together and got into a competition. So let me just go back a couple of steps. Do you
mm.
know Stephen Bradbury? He's
No,
the Australian Olympian um, speed skater, and he's
no.
the guy that he won the gold medal after everyone else in his race fell down.
All right.
So my wife likes to say that we Stephen Bradbury'd our way to the World Championships in Houston, in Texas.
Mm,
Because me and a couple of mates from different teams, we got together to form a composite team for one competition. Because
right.
this one competition, we're all from different states up and down the East Coast, and we got together for this one competition and managed to pull third place, which got us one draw in the barrel to be pulled out for the two Australian teams to go represent Australia the next year.
hmm
And we went, oh, yeah, we've got one name in the draw, and there's other teams that have just like, they're going to have half a dozen or 10 entries. Like, there's no way that they're going to pick us. And sure enough, whoop, there she goes. She pulls it out, and there's our composite team name. And so we ended up going over to Texas to compete at the World's Barbecue Championships in 2018.
Oh,
and
wow.
we came 90th. So we're in the top 100 barbecue cooks in the world, which was very cool.
Mm.
And so we took that opportunity to do a podcast tour around the United States because that was in Houston. So we did a few around Texas, and then my wife and I drove over to New Orleans, and we had about a week in New Orleans and did some things over there, and then up to Arkansas because my wife's family is in Arkansas,
Mm.
and a couple more podcast episodes up there, and it attracted some of the attention of some of the US people over there, and that got me involved in the National Barbecue and Grilling Association,
Mhm.
and we've had a lot of success with that as well in their annual excellence awards, and now that's got me involved in the Barbecue News magazine as well. So I have a monthly column that I write for that.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's all just sort of started from one backyard conversation with a mate, and it's the last 6 years have kind of got bigger and bigger and bigger, and now we've got a growing YouTube channel, and we've got our podcast, which has won the National Barbecue and Grilling Association's Best Audio Series for 2 years running.
Yeah.
Which, to be honest, just staggers me, considering that barbecue is so popular over in America that they have drive time radio shows that are just about barbecue.
Mhm.
And so for our podcast to come along and sort of slide in up there into number one for 2 years running is just it's astounding. It absolutely staggers me.
Well, it's a great show, to be honest. As I said earlier, I've been listening for a while. It's a really nice show. It's a good listen, to be fair, because you have quite a variety of guests. You'll have it's sort of like you could say it's quite competition focused, but equally then there's a butcher guy, restaurant owners, sort of like then you talk about sort of like all sorts of stuff. It's like the whole barbecue world. It's sort of like the standpoint we're going for on this show. We like to talk from anyone, whether it's like a YouTuber with 10 subscribers up to, I don't know, we've had Meathead on just like yourself, so you're talking to Meathead, who else you're going to talk to, except like Malcolm or someone, that's sort of like the high level stuff.
I
And
can't get past Malcolm's press agent, so if you find a way around his press agent, let me know.
Mhm. Yeah, well, we'll see. You never know what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah.
You never know. But fingers crossed. We've spoken to Mark. Mark's really good. Mark Williams. He's been on the show. He's a really good guy.
Yep.
He works with the How to Barbecue Right team. He's working with them at the minute. So hit him up. He's a great guest. Really, really entertaining. We were lucky enough to get him off the back of his grand champion win, where he brought all the fiddles and stuff home. So that was good.
Oh wow, very cool.
Was it Gravlocks or something like that? The fire on the mountain, smoke on the
Oh,
mountain. That competition.
that's
I
in
think it's called.
California, isn't it?
I'm not sure
That's a
where it is, to
Californian
be honest.
competition, I think.
But the prizes look really cool. They give you like fiddles and guitars and stuff like that, and yeah, it's pretty smart. And he
Cool.
was a very, very, very nice guest. So just like yourself. Anyway, so you've kind of answered a few of my questions all in one. I want to dig down into that, like what kind of inspires you for questions for your guests, because I always have great fun sort of rooting around. Like how do you go about doing your procedure?
Yeah, okay. So one of the things that I do is I've always got my radar on for good stories.
Mm,
So I spend a lot of time on the socials, and I follow a whole bunch of different people, and as things pop up, I have a Google spreadsheet, which I
mm,
can access from my phone or my computer wherever I am at any time, and I just make notes in that. So I've got this list that I'm constantly updating of dream guests, and
mhm,
as they do different things and things pop up, I write them into that spreadsheet. And the way I actually do it is I plan my podcast in quarters. So
mm,
I'm a teacher by day, and I teach at a college, and so I have school holidays off. So we work for 10 weeks, 2 weeks off, work for 10 weeks, 2 weeks off, and
mm,
I'll actually use one of those weeks in the holidays to sit down and record 13, 14, 15 podcast episodes, and then drip feed them out over the next quarter.
uh-huh,
And so I'll periodically sit down and I'll review that spreadsheet. And so I'm looking for who's been doing things recently, who's got some great stories. And you're right. Historically, in the past, I have been quite competition focused. We have had various business owners, and uh, social media celebrities and things like that on the show as well, but we were sort of more
Mm.
competition focused. And of course, the last 2 years, things have been a little bit difficult to have competition, so there hasn't been too many
Mm.
stories to tell from the competition scene. So we've recently switched at actually when all the madness started is when we switched to a weekly format show. We used to just be series based, so I'd do 10 or 15 episodes as a series and then take a couple of months off and then come back and do another 10 or 15 episodes. And so for the last
Mm.
2 years, we've been doing one a week for the last 2 years. So well, a year and a half.
Mhm.
And so we've expanded our scope. So we're talking to business owners, we're talking to, manufacturers, rubs, sources. If there's competitors that, have been to a competition, then we'll get them on and we'll talk to them about the competition and all that sort of stuff as well. So yeah, that's basically what I do. I'm always on the lookout for good stories. So, if, for example, there might be somebody who is not a competitor, doesn't run a business, but puts together a great event for charity, then I'm
Mm.
gonna wanna talk to them about putting on that event for charity because that's a great story, And so,
Mhm.
um, the thing to keep in mind is that for a good podcast, the podcast can't be about the host. So
For sure.
Smoking Hot Confessions is never about us.
Mm.
We've done 2 episodes about Smoking Hot Confessions. That was the 100th special episode and the 150th special episode. And so we're up to about 170 now, and we've only talked about ourselves twice. So the emphasis is always on the guest and their story, and that's what we love about it. We love sharing and telling stories and helping people get their message and their story out as well.
Mm. That's pretty much the standpoint we take as well, to be honest. I think if it is a good story, so anyone with a good story, it's how can you I think it's awesome to sit down and listen to someone and sort of get into the nuts and bolts of things. So did you know, um, sort of like, well, as I said, you sort of like plan the conversations out, or do you just sort of let it go freely and take it like that?
I always have a plan.
Mm.
I have a theatre background. When I was in Newcastle, we were talking about Newcastle off air before. My first university degree, because I'm a huge nerd, so I've been to uni 4 times. I have 4 university degrees.
Mm.
My first one, I majored in drama and theatre, so I never get on camera without without a script. And I think that this dodgy webcam I'm having to use tonight because my nice camera's bombed out. I don't think you're gonna be able to see it. No, it's just showing up as a plain white paper. It's a full segment by segment breakdown of the different topics that I want to talk about. But now that
Mm.
said, if the guest, if the conversation sort of goes off on its own, then that's great. Then we'll go and explore that. But I never walk in with nothing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I like to have a little bit of a plan as well, to be honest. We just got a message in from Chris Sutton. He's says hello from India. I'm trimming a 17 brisket, injecting it just for the backyard, not for competition cook. That's really cool.
I'm assuming that's 17 pounds. That's a big brisket.
Yeah, well, yeah, 17 pounds or it's kilos. Well, it's whatever way. It's a beast, and
Oh,
then to be fair,
if it's 17 kilos, that's the size of like a 5-year-old child. So
that'd be some cook. Yeah, we got Johnny
yeah.
Mags in as well from
I did see his name flash up there before. G'day, Johnny. How you doing, buddy?
yeah, Pit Life Barbecue. It was on them last Tuesday. Seems like ages ago now. Blimey, things are flying. So yeah, have you got an idea of your sort of demographic where people sort of pick you up from and listen to around the world?
Yeah, so we've the demographic for the well, okay, to be honest, it depends on platform to platform.
Mm.
So because I record with in video, I release the show in both video and audio format, much like yourselves.
Mm.
And as you saw before we went live, I had a beautiful camera up here, sitting up here working, and I think that the power cord just burnt out right as you had brought me on on camera there. So that's why we've got this dodgy looking camera here. But no, normally I've got a beautiful camera set up, and so we record them live in our Facebook group, the
Mhm.
Smoking Hot Confessions barbecue community, and then I leave that up for about an hour or so, and then I take it down so I can edit it, polish it, tidy up the audio, all that sort of stuff, and then I'll re-upload it a couple of weeks or months later.
Yeah.
As I said before, I drip feed them over a quarter. And so when we're talking about just the audio podcast, it's 2/3 Australian, 1/3 American, with a few sort of scattered around the world. I should actually be able to just bring this up right here in front of you now. Anyway, yeah, so we do have listeners all over the world. We actually are growing over in the UK, which is nice.
Mm.
Good to see. And as you switch from platform to platform, the ratio kind of changes. So we have more Americans than Australians following us on Instagram. YouTube is about the same as the audio version. It's 2/3 Australian, 1/3 American. Facebook is predominantly Australian, but with a growing American contingent there as well.
Mhm.
And our Facebook group is actually starting to attract more and more Americans to it, which is nice.
Yeah.
And so we're up to just over a quarter of the group is from America now as well. So for an Aussie, barbecue nerd who loves tech and loves barbecue and loves putting it all together, to be, attracting attention from people from the homeland of barbecue, that's a real great feeling.
Yeah.
It's really good. So that's a bit of a breakdown on the demographics there. I've finally got this map up here. So in the last, what's this date range here? In the last 60 days, it looks like. Yeah, the last 2 months, from the 1st of June to the 30th of August. We've had listeners in Canada, the USA, Mexico, Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, almost all through Europe. So Portugal, Spain, France, the UK, Ireland, Germany. We do pretty well up in the Nordic regions, actually, quite surprisingly. Finland and Sweden and Norway, all the way down to South Africa, Libya, Jordan. There's people in Jordan listening to the show, so that's pretty cool. Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal, Malaysia, Philippines, New Zealand. So we're sort of hitting most of the countries, which is pretty cool. And we're getting really good feedback about it, which is quite nice as well. So yeah, we're having a good time with it. We're talking to a lot of people. Because I've changed the way that I do the shows to this programming in quarters now, I'm able to reach a lot more people in a lot more different countries because I'm using that week off work to record the episode. So I'm more flexible with the times that I'm available. And so we're starting to reach out more around the world, which is really interesting as well, because we've got Johannes Lippelm, which I'm probably really butchering the pronunciation of his name. I do apologize, but he's a very active member in our group. He's from the Nordic regions up there, and he smokes bear, and he puts bear and reindeer and things like that, and puts posts in our Facebook group about smoking bears and reindeers and things like that. So
wow.
I'm looking at getting him on the show. I'm just trying to line up a time that when we're both available. But that's going to be really interesting as well. We can get that together.
That sounds pretty cool. You might have to pass him back over to me. He sounds really. I'd like to have a chat with him. We've had a guy on called Olav. He's a Traeger rep in Norway, and yeah, he cooks all sort of reindeer and all sorts of fantastic stuff like that as well. And he told us that he likes to eat whale. Apparently, when it's in whale season, like there's a whale season in Norway, you can just wander down the shops and buy yourself some whale and cook it, which is pretty mind blowing for the UK.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. They're incredibly protected here in Australia as well. We just did a whale watching tour last weekend, and they were telling us all about the different laws and all that sort of protecting the whales. So to be able to eat them is it certainly raises an eyebrow to an Australian.
Well, to be fair, it's all they don't go for the endangered ones. Obviously, I suppose there's like common eating whales you can go for. I don't know. He did say that I think they're called minke whales or something. They're fairly
Okay.
common around them parts. But I think that's the right whale. If I'm wrong, please do correct me. But yeah, he was a really good listen. If you get him on, he was a brilliant guest. Olav, if you want, I can send you his details and hook him up. He was fantastic.
Yeah,
He was
sounds good.
really good guy. Interesting.
Mm.
But it just goes to show the different the different people you talk to, you sort of like learn about different cultures and how barbecue's done around the world. It's all fantastic, you know. It's all one big community, really.
Yeah, well, when I was over in Houston competing at those World Barbecue Championships I was talking about, we were in the international corner, and they're incredibly hospitable. The Texans, they put the international competitors corner right dead in the center of the event. So there's 250 barbecue teams there. It's absolutely massive. It's a scale that we sort of can't comprehend here in Australia,
Mm.
and to put it in perspective, the Thursday night was the quiet night. There was only 35,000 people on site. The Friday night was, I think it was 75, and the Saturday night was 125,000 people on site. I was trying to do a live video, and I couldn't maintain enough internet to get a decent to get a
Yeah.
live video going. But in the international corner, we had teams. There were 2 teams from the UK. There was 2 of us from Australia. There was one from Norway, or Sweden, and 1 from Japan. So
Wow.
yeah, the low and slow barbecue movement has absolutely spread around the world, and that I think that's why we're seeing. We were just discussing the different countries on my podcast listenership here, and I think that that's what we're seeing. I think that we're seeing the low and slow movement kind of spread around the world as people get into this style of cooking.
Mm. Yeah, you can see it growing, and also it's interesting as well to see the different type of trends and how people do stuff differently and different takes on stuff. It's quite cool because like we're all sort of watching and seeing what's going on because we need to, because it's sort of like what we do. Um, or more to the point, sort of one of the many things that you do. If it isn't a barbecue podcast, you're running a barbecue competition. Um, and so sort of circling back round to that. What sort of I know you guys do stuff slightly differently over in Australia. So if you could tell the people listening what kind of different categories you would have for USA barbecue, USA cooking versus Australian cooking.
Yeah, sure, sure. Just to clarify one point, I don't actually run barbecue competitions, but I do work at other people's competitions.
Oh,
So I'm not actually an event promoter. I get hired by other event promoters to go work at their events.
yeah.
Just to clarify that. Okay, so barbecue in Australia compared to the US. So what I grew up with thinking of as barbecue, I've since discovered is not real barbecue. So what we consider to be barbecue over here would be considered grilling. Um, you know, direct high heat. If it's not burnt black and crunchy, then it's not done right. That sort of thing. You want to take a ribeye and then cook it so that it's, you got to chew each mouthful 250 times to get it down, so you really get your money's worth out of that ribeye steak, sort of thing. Um, so that's basically how Australian barbecue differs from American barbecue. Now, when it comes to competition, we have been very good about putting our own spin on it. So we have come up with a bunch of different categories. We have, KCBS is here, and KCBS is KCBS, and so you're always going to have those 4 categories there.
Mm,
Chicken, pork ribs, and beef, and but we also have the Australasian Barbecue Alliance, the ABA. We have the SCA that you mentioned before.
mm,
We have their competitions here as well. And the Australasian Barbecue Alliance actually has a bit more flexibility built into their system. So promoters can actually, they have to choose a certain number of categories from a compulsory list. So that there might be, say, 5 categories that are compulsory for promoters to pick 3 to qualify as a championship round. And then
mm,
after that, promoters can then make their own. So my local competition here on the Gold Coast was always the Burleigh Barbecue Festival, literally on the beach here at North Burleigh, just
oh,
behind the
nice.
dunes. There's a beautiful grassed parkland, and once a year we'd go there and set up about 50 teams and cook
Mm.
barbecue for 2 or 3 days and have the public walk through and ask if they could eat the food and talk about how all the smokers look like steam trains and all that sort of typical sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But we have lamb is one of our staple cuts,
Hmm.
because we love lamb here in Australia, so we always make sure that that lamb's in there. The one at Burleigh, we had a seafood category because we were actually on the beach. There was a seafood category. And
Mhm.
I believe one year, I wasn't part of it because I'm terrible at fishing, but there was actually like a little off the books sort of sub comp, like a little side competition
Mm.
of who could go to the beach, catch a fish off the beach, clean it, cook it, and then present it to some judges.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so there are sometimes there are some little side pot competitions as well. So
Mm.
that was one of them there. There's another guy. He runs a Devon competition, just like a little side pot thing after hours when the public's gone. It's just the competitors around.
Mm.
And do you have Devon in the UK? Do you know what I'm talking about?
We have Devon the place. I don't know what you mean by the
Oh,
thing.
okay.
It's like a county called Devon. I was like thinking, what's that?
No, no, no. Okay. So Devon over here is like the cheapest of the cheapest processed meat squeezed into a tube, into a loaf, and then sliced. It's kind of like I had bologna when I was over in the States, and it makes bologna look like a ribeye steak. That's how cheap it is. And so
Right.
this guy runs a little. It's for charity. He'll find like a local school or something and say, righto, guys, it's $25 entry, um, and all the proceeds go to the local school or something. And it gets pretty wild. Like people carving different things out of Devon and putting them in a box and putting them into to some judges and yeah, it's a good time. So there's all these different sort of little side pots and little side competitions. But do you know the Brahman cow? It's the type of cow with the big hump on its back, almost like a camel.
No, I've not heard of that either. They don't see many of them wandering around the UK. I've not heard
Okay,
of that.
all right. Okay, well, because we're quite an arid country, Brahman cattle are quite popular over here because
Mhm.
it's their humps are not as big as camels, but they're a similar idea. They can kind of hold moisture in there, and so Brahman hump becomes a category at some competitions.
All right.
So I, the, like I said, there are those core categories that a promoter has to choose in order to qualify as a championship round. But after that, they've got the creativity that they can pretty much do anything they want. So you'll see chef's choice, you'll see desserts. They might specify different beef categories. So there was one
Mm.
competition a little while ago that was all beef, but it
Mm.
was the categories were different cuts. So there was brisket or beef ribs or tri-tip, and I think steak was the fourth one. So it was just all beef. It was put
Mm.
on by I think it was the Australian Beef Council. It was 3 years ago or something now. So my memory's is a little bit hazy there. But yeah, so we have like quite a lot more creativity. I feel and a bit more freedom than some of the kind of the lockdown KCBS categories. And I
Mm.
think that typically competitors either fall into two categories. You know, it's like a race driver that just sticks to one track and just goes
Mhm.
zong 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 and just loves just going around that one track. And then there's other like rally drivers where you're going off through the bush or you're in Paris Dakar and you're going wherever you want to through the dunes and that sort of stuff. And so I think that competitors fall into two groups. They either like the creativity and the openness, or they prefer the very set path of KCBS style competitions. Um, for me personally, I prefer to be a bit more creative.
Mhm.
Now that said, it's been a couple of years since I last competed because I ended up working at so many different barbecue festivals that when I had a weekend off, it was like, what do I want to do? Do I want to go compete in another barbecue festival, or do I just want to stay at home? And so
Mm.
it's been a while since I last competed, but yeah, no, it's really good fun, and it gets quite creative and loads of different ways of doing it. Some friends of mine run a competition up in Bundaberg. So if you've been here in Australia, then you would have had some Bundaberg rum, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that comes
Bundy.
from Bundaberg. So yeah,
Yeah.
Bundy and Coke. Give us a
Yeah.
Bundy and Coke.
That's it.
And yeah, and so they had a category up at their competition up in Bundaberg where you had to
Mm.
cook something using Bundaberg rum.
All right.
So yeah, it's the f- it can be incredibly wide open in terms of creativity.
Mm. That's pretty, yeah, mind blowing. I didn't even know there was cows with humps on, to be honest. That sort of blew my mind. It's like, wow, you can cook a cow hump. That's pretty cool. That's a good category. I
Yeah,
could try
yeah.
and get some over here. That'd be something I've heard of. Well, some guys had eaten cow udders before, but cow hump would be a new one on me.
Oh, wow.
That'd be
Okay.
quite a cool thing. So mentioning you're competing. So what was your strongest category when you were cooking or
Look,
last competing?
I did quite well with beef ribs and seafood. So beef ribs are one of my favorite things. I'm finding as I'm getting a little bit older, I can't just sort of sit down and just plow through a whole beef rib anymore. I've got to just sort of eat a little bit and then put it away and come back to it like tomorrow or something, because they are quite rich, but the flavor is just unbelievable. They just taste amazing. They're soft like marshmallows. They're juicy. They take on a bark really well in the smoker. They color up beautifully. Because you're not wrapping them like pork ribs, you get that delicious contrast between the crunchy bark on the outside and the soft meat on the inside. And they're also one of the easiest things to cook. You can just chuck them in and forget about them. So, they're one of my favorite things to cook. And the salmon I always loved because I also love Fireball whiskey, and so I came up with an orange and Fireball marinade, and I would buy these salmon portions and then trim them down into little sort of bite-sized cubes, and then smoke the cubes. And every 10 minutes or so, because it doesn't take long to hot smoke a salmon, to little cubes of salmon, and then every couple of minutes rip the lid off the Weber and baste them in this orange and Fireball marinade. So we get this really sort of rich, tangy, orange and cinnamon flavored sort of exterior with the delicious smoked salmon texture on the inside. And it was just, it was beautiful. Really delicious stuff.
Sounds like a fantastic idea. I'd have never thought about doing that with a salmon. And it's almost like for want of a better word, like a salmon burnt end, if you know what I mean. It's sort of like that kind of echoing that kind of way of cooking stuff. Just cook it and baste it and cook it and baste it so you get a good glaze and then little chunks of deliciousness. It sounds really nice.
Yeah, well, to be honest, if I was cooking at home, I wouldn't bother cutting them down into the cubes. I'd just leave them in the big slabs and just baste the whole slab. But when you're doing it for competition, you've got to put 6 serves in the box for the 6 different judges, and things like symmetry and matching sizes and shapes and all that sort of stuff. All of that's important when you're putting together your competition box for the judges. So that was why I must have spent like an hour and a half trimming these 6 salmon pieces down into identical little, like you said, burnt end sized, or no, they would have been about the size of maybe 2 burnt ends together, each, and then went about cooking that and getting that all set up. So, yeah,
cracking idea, mate. Really good idea. It sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to try and get if you send me the recipe and I'll do that. I'll do like a little bit of salmon or trout would be good as well, I suppose. Similar fish. So, have you got sort of a biggest blooper moment when you've been sort of cooking at your competitions and all of a sudden it's all gone a little bit, anything you'd like to share?
Mate, I tell you what, my first big sanctioned competition, it was the 2015 Burley Barbecue Challenge down there on the beach that I was talking about before. And that was before I had like a large, serious smoker. I've got an offset smoker now, and I've got a jagged smoker oven as well that I'm playing with at the moment. And but this is back in the days of cooking on rescued Webers and things like that. And so I had cooked pork ribs before, but I hadn't done as many as, I think I had 4 racks. I was going to cook 4 racks, and so I went to the store and I bought a standing rib rack to stand them up in the Weber. And I didn't account for the fact that the one standing at the front, because I had the charcoal set up on one side of the Weber, like pushed against the wall, and I had the indirect zone of the Weber, but I had the ribs oblique to the charcoal. And so James would have been a judge at that competition. I've just seen that just seen that comment pop up there. He would have probably had one of those Fireball salmon burnt ends. Anyway, so I had these ribs in this rack, 4 of them on the rack, oblique to the charcoal, and it didn't occur to me that the front rack would deflect the heat and the smoke up and over and out the vent. And so I pulled the frontmost rack off, cut it up, had a look at it, went, yep, that looks good, but it's ugly. And So I'll just chop the other racks, and the other racks were really underdone. So when it came time to hand them into the judges, I had no choice. I had to just put them in the box and just let them go. And like, to be honest, I don't really have an objection to rare meat. So I thought personally at the time, I thought, it's probably okay. But the judges disagreed and they refused to eat it. And so I got presentation points only. I didn't get any taste or texture points for that. And as a result, when I did the math afterwards, if I had have got a similar score for them that I got for all my other hand-ins, I would have had a top 10 finish at my first competition out of about 40 teams. But because of that, I finished second last. So
yeah, that's something. Mind you, I suppose it's all a learning curve, isn't it? It's sort of like you go there, so you take something back, improve on it. So that's you got to look on it that way. But yeah, sending in a rare old bit of that'd be, well, you had a set of cojones to send it down the line, mate. Fair play to you. You know, yeah, that'd be right. Send it.
Well, in the Australian competition rules, you can still send it, like, even if it's not ready,
Right.
because the judges are trained to know about it. So, but if you know that it's raw, like if it's something really important like chicken, like if you know the chicken's not done, you should tell them when you hand it in, but you still get presentation points. Just no one's going to eat it, so you're not going to get scores for the other ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the pork, I thought it was okay. I ate a couple of them and it tasted all right to me. But yeah, the judges disagreed and refused. But yeah, that would probably be my biggest disaster at a barbecue competition.
Yeah.
There's been a couple of barbecue competitions where I've enjoyed the previous night's festivities a little bit too much, and I've been sitting there trying to prep food at the prep table, and just every time I look at it, I'm going like sort of throwing up in the back of my mouth and then swallowing it back down while I'm prepping the food. So there's been at least 2 of those competitions before I learned to behave myself at competitions. So yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. I think a lot of people have been in that situation who cook barbecue competitively. I certainly know of a few people over here who have been in that place. So you also do classes as well, don't you? And things like that. I've seen on your website you're teaching classes. Do you prefer demo cooking or actually physically taking classes with people?
So the classes that we're doing at the moment, they're actually at people's events. So I mentioned before that I get hired to go to events, and so there's many different things that I can do for them. Some of them just want me for the social media, so I'll run around with my cameras and my microphones and prepare a whole lot of digital content for them. Podcasts, videos, photography, all that sort of stuff. I'm a bit of a jack of all trades there. And then there are other event promoters that will hire me to do on-stage cooking demonstrations and host and basically run like a live barbecue stage throughout the 2 days of the festival. So there's a guy up here in Queensland, Julian De Souza. He runs a series of barbecue competitions, and he hires me for all of them. So it's almost like an ongoing series of live barbecue on stage lessons that I do. So I always, so he always has me on stage to do sort of 3 or 4 different different cooking presentations for 3 or 4 competitions a year. So there'll be like a series of 10 or 12 different on stage lessons I'll do live in front of a crowd, and I love all that stuff. So I pack my truck and I pack a little barbecue for those events. I've got a PK Grills PK 360, and it's large enough that I can do enough samples so that most of the crowd will get a bite. But it's compact enough I can just throw it in the back of the truck, and I don't have to go and rent a trailer and drag a giant offset smoker out of the yard down to get it in the trailer and all that sort of stuff. So I'll pack up the back of my truck. I'll grab my swag, throw my swag in the back, and I'll spend the weekend with the competitors. And I've got my barbecue set up and my swag set up, and
Mm.
I just hang out with them and have a good time. And during the day, they're cooking for their competition, and I'm on stage on the barbecue stage doing my thing. So
Oh, that sounds awesome. It sounds like
yeah,
a good time to me.
yeah, it is,
Fantastic idea.
yeah. And so I'll grab some competitors in their downtime. Like I'll grab some and bring them up on stage, and we'll do some stuff together on stage. And yeah, we have a really good time. We're really doing everything that we can to spread barbecue competitions and barbecue culture and real barbecue, low and slow wood fired barbecue,
Mhm.
far and wide. So yeah, that's what that's about. Now there are plans to start doing some lessons here. I don't know if I'm jumping the gun on you here. I don't know
No,
what your
no, okay.
question lineup is, but
No, it's fine. No.
I've spent these weeks of lockdown building a outdoor barbecue kitchen area, and
Mhm.
it's a bit of a TV studio style barbecue kitchen. And once things get a bit less restricted, we are looking at doing some barbecue classes here at Smoking Hot Confessions.
Oh, fantastic idea. Yeah, that was actually one of my questions, and we're sort of jumping around them anyway, so it's flowing nicely. But, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because, I was gonna say now, where you are, if you now you said you're gonna be developing classes and stuff, do you have any plans to bring out more products out, like rubs or sauces or anything like that at any point?
Somewhere down the line, probably yes.
Mm,
It's not like where it is part of the business plan, but that's probably like a good year and a half, maybe even 2 years away.
mhm,
At the moment, we're just looking at building a strong base and getting some of those in person things happening as well. Um, a lot of the people that I talk to in the rub and sauce game tell me that they're making cents on the dollar type thing. So we're looking at doing a few other things that can build us a good base, get a good amount of money in the bank, so we can then develop some really fantastic rubs and sauces and put a really strong marketing plan underneath it to make sure we can move them all. Because I know a lot of guys that sort of put the cart before the horse a bit, and they go and they make these rubs and they find a co-packer and they produce the rubs and then they struggle to move them.
mhm,
So we want to get the ball rolling first,
yeah.
and get some money under us to do some serious marketing, and then we're going to be looking at heading that way as well.
Yeah, it kinda looks like you're well on your way with all of that, to be honest, 'cause obviously your website, it looks great, and you've got a lot of quite strong branding on there for, like, you've got hoodies and hats and, like, cups and all sorts of stuff. So, how do you see Smoking Hot Confessions as a brand moving forward? Exactly. Oh, wouldn't mind one of them. I might see if I can get one ordered and send it over. They look pretty cool, mate.
Yeah, mate. I just like this is not a no, it is a shameless plug.
Mm,
These are insulated stainless steel tumblers, and they're about 500 mil. And when I tested them, and there's information on the website there that you can see.
mm,
I got a wireless thermometer there, and I filled one with iced water and another one with boiling water, and I
mm,
took ambient temperature readings first, and then dropped a probe into each one, put the lid on, and just left it overnight. And after 24 hours, the thermometer stopped recording temperatures because the graph only runs for 24 hours,
mm,
and they still hadn't returned to room temperature. Neither one, like neither the boiling one n- nor the iced water one. So they're really good stuff there. We love them here.
mm.
I've got one at work, I've got one in the car, and I've always got at least one here at the house. So
Yeah, fair
we
play.
we we do love them, yeah. But no, look, just to get back to your question about how we see the brand evolving. One of the things that we're doing at the moment is we're getting back into making cooking videos. So a couple
Mm,
of years ago, I got into to starting to do them, and they were just there's so much work if you want to do them right.
mm,
And coming from a theater background, for me, it's got to be perfect. Like this is driving me crazy that I'm representing myself here on your show tonight, and I've got this cheap webcam because my beautiful camera something's gone wrong with the power cable, you know. So we kind of shied away from that for a while, just because it was a lot of work and not a huge return for us at the time. But over the last couple of years, we've developed the podcast, and so we've now developed that into basically it's a live edited and recorded show. So we preload all the sponsor videos and all the announcements and the graphics and the artwork and all that sort of stuff. And I can control all that through a little control panel off screen. And so we can do it all, go to woe, and it's very minimal editing afterwards. It takes me about maybe 2 hours editing for a 1 hour recording.
Yeah.
And so the other thing was things like lighting and things like that, trying to get lighting right, trying to get sound right. Because if you don't have good sound, then people just turn off your video straight away. So in the last 5 years, there's been a whole lot of technology leaps forward. And so, you know, I've now been able to actually get some decent, affordable wireless mics and things like that. So we have built this outdoor studio. We've got some beautiful lights, beautiful cameras. And so we're getting back into that. And so we're doing a series of videos at the moment with a group called Jagged Wood Fired. They've sent me one of their smoker ovens. It's absolutely just incredible to use. I'm a bit sad because it's just a loaner. I do have to give it back, but I'm happy to give it back because they are raffling it off for a charity. So what I'm doing is I'm making a series of videos about how to use it and how to do it. And they're going to be raffling off that smoker at the end of October. And they're raising money for Lifeline, which over here Lifeline supports like a whole range of different stuff. They've got, you know, the suicide hotlines. They've got women's shelters for women fleeing domestic violence situations, all that sort of stuff. So that they do really good stuff there. So we're midway through a series with them at the moment with Jagged Wood Fired. And those videos are exclusive to our YouTube channel because we're trying to grow our YouTube channel at the moment. So we're doing quite well over there. Since we've added cooking videos back to the repertoire, we're starting to see the growth of the YouTube channel really kicking on. So we've got four videos up there at the moment. I was supposed to have a fifth one due out today, but are just so busy. And when it does come to the cooking videos, it takes someone once told me it's an hour of editing per minute of footage when you're looking at doing like a cooking video. And I sort of went, oh, come on, that can't be right. But no. Sure enough, it's an hour of editing for 1 minute of video footage. Because, you know, shooting a podcast here, we're each just sitting in our studios. When you're trying to do a cooking video, you got to have all your B-roll, you got to have all your overhead shots, you got to have all your main camera shots. And you know, because I wanted to have a really nice camera, I put all my budget into one camera. And now I'm like, oh, damn it, I should have got a less quality camera so I could have two. So I could have one just set up for, you know, B-roll and one just permanently as the main camera. But now I've got to have the one camera, pull it all apart, set it up on a different tripod, take it off the tripod, put it on the gimbal, get my two different B-roll shots, put it back on the main, you know. And so it kind of takes like a really long time, but we're really enjoying it. And like anything, the more we do it, the better we're going to get at it. And so the production end of it is fantastic. They look great. They sound great. The food looks good. The food tastes great. But man, I got to work on my time management for the editing because I obsess about the details. And it takes me just so long to get one finished and to get it out. So apologies to anyone who was expecting the beef rib video this morning. It'll be out next Saturday. I'm sure.
100%. That's the thing. Once you start, it's almost like going into a rabbit hole, you know. Once you start editing, you sort of see things and then you see more stuff and you see more stuff, and then all of a sudden you're obsessing over something that's like a fraction of a second that no one's going to see. But because it's on a timeline when you're editing it, you can see it and you think, oh, that's got to go. And then you start moving it backwards and forwards and probably ending up just putting out what was there anyway, because that was the best fit. It's just planning your shots is the most important thing with YouTube. If you can think how you're going to shoot things before you start, that makes your life a lot easier. But I can certainly see how a second camera would definitely come in more handy
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
Well, I've actually built rigs into the ceiling for iPhones. Because when my iPhone plans expired, when it was time to update last year, the phone company let me keep the old ones, and they shoot at 4K, which is beautiful because my new camera shoots at 4K. And so I've built some overhead rigs, just using the 4K from the iPhone. But then, Mr. Detail Obsession over here, I then have to sit there for hours trying to get the color grading right between the footage off the Sony camera and the footage off the iPhone, because it looked to me, it looks obvious that it's come from two different types of cameras. And so I then sit there spending hours trying to color grade these like you said, fractions of seconds of clips, just to try and make them look like they match.
Only a YouTuber could say that. I feel your pain.
Yeah,
I know what you're saying.
yeah.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, it's sort of like you sit there and you're fretting over that, and you could throw together something with a phone. No one would even know. No one would even see. But because it sounds like you've got a fine attention to detail, you will sit there and you'll be like with your little editing program, etching away, watching the hours tick by, and then it's
Yep.
it's heartbreaking sometimes. Like for me, the amount of hours I've put into my channel, and to be fair, I'm taking a bit of a break from it at the minute because it's the editing that kills me, and the podcast is sort of like moved over slightly, but that's for another time. Yeah, getting back onto your website. So we've sort of gone over a lot of that, and the Australian barbecue culture. Just to move it on a little segment. Obviously, I've been over there, and there's grills pretty much all the way up the side of the East Coast. You can stop anywhere at a little park and cook away to your heart's content. But how have you seen it change over the years from obviously your snags, as you call them over there, to what's going on now? What do you think on that? How's that changed?
Yeah, well, there's a little bit of there's an interesting blah, blah, blah. There's an interesting thing happening in the beer scene at the moment. So craft beers are really exploding over here, and so it used to be when I was a young man that you'd walk into the grog shop and there was 3 beers, and you could buy a box of new, you could buy a box of VB, or you could buy a box of old, and that was it. There was new, VB, and old, and now you walk into a grog shop and there's 100 different types of beers and all different strengths, all different flavors. There's I had a couple of hazy IPAs from a local group here just yesterday that was made with like grapefruit juice and like mixed into the beer and stuff like that, and it was absolutely delicious. And I think that we're starting to see that concept, that kind of that open-mindedness about things kind of spread through into the barbecue scene as well. And to a certain degree, there is a little amount of history repeating. My father has a photo album, and in the photo album, there's my grandmother holding me like as a little baby. My mother's sitting next to her. My grandfather's standing up behind them, and my dad is cooking at a Weber kettle just off to the side. And so that would have been, if I was a baby, that would have been 79, maybe 1979, 1980. And so he's wearing like the tiny little footy shorts that were popular at the time, and he's got, 1.5 foot of flame coming up out of the top of this Weber kettle and all that sort of stuff. But I don't ever remember seeing a Weber kettle growing up, like when I'm conscious enough to remember, So from like 5 or 6 years old onwards. And when my wife and I bought our first house in 2008, so you're sort of fast forwarding 25 years there. The lady that moved out left a Weber kettle in the garden shed, and that was my introduction to charcoal cooking. Because before that, everything was just gas. So all I remember growing up is gas barbecues, and not even gas smokers, just low and slow, flat hot plates. Sorry, hot and fast, flat hot plates, gas hot plates. And in around the early 2000s, we started to get gas barbecues with hoods. And so people would start to do some roasting and things like that in it. And then around 2014, 2015 is when we started to see the resurgence of wood-fired and charcoal-fired cooking. And so that's how the kind of the cultural evolution in my lifetime has happened in terms of barbecue. And now that it's here, I really think it's going to be here to stay. I mean, we've got people. So to my other hobby, other than cooking and shooting videos and spending countless hours editing videos, is my 4 hours a week of social contact. Is I go to a Brazilian jiu-jitsu gym, and guys that are 20 years younger just wail on me and just beat the hell out of me. But it's fun. It's fun. And but there's guys there who are there's one guy who's a salesman for surgical equipment, who you wouldn't typically associate someone in that profession with sitting for hours out in the backyard getting dirty and smoky and cooking brisket. But he comes into the gym, he's like, "Mate, I just bought my first brisket. What should I do?" And I'm like, "Well, I'll tell you what, if you don't choke me unconscious, I'll tell you at the end of the training session."
Yeah, we'll
So
see how we go, mate.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that we've really seen a complete paradigm shift there. We've gone from gases back to charcoal, and I can't see it going away, because with the advent of various different modern technologies, a lot of the previous problems that people were having with charcoal have been removed. That people always complained it was too long, it was too dirty, it was too slow, it was this and that and the other. And so, I mean, now you've got things like a pellet grill, for example. You don't even need to know how to manage a fire for that, and you can still have this delicious food. I'm playing with this jagged smoker oven at the moment. It's fully insulated, both the fire chamber and the cooking chamber. So it's got this massive cooking space. You could fit probably 6 or 8 briskets in there, and I run a tiny fire, like maybe three sticks of wood in there at a time.
Oh,
And
wow.
so there's a lot less labor involved in there. And I just think that we're going to see the scene develop and grow. You mentioned rubs and sauces there. We are seeing an absolute explosion of of locally made rubs and sauces here in Australia.
Yeah.
Just another funny competition story. Back to that same competition with the dodgy pork ribs that I cooked up. It was my first big competition, and I read the rules, and it said all food must be prepared on site. And I went, "Okay, great, no worries." And back in 2015, there weren't really any, well, at least not in my area, there weren't any ready-made imported rubs and sauces off the shelf.
Mm.
So I had to make all my own stuff, and I read the rules, and it said all food must be made on site. So I turn up there. I had my four-wheel drive, my trailer, my father's four-wheel drive, and my friend's van, all fully stocked with stuff. And we're there at the competition, and it's early in the morning, and I'm sitting there and I'm squeezing oranges and I'm grinding the peels, and I've got the pepper grinders out and all this sort of stuff. People are walking past, looking at me going, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, the rules are that all the food has to be made on site. So I've got 5 different rubs I've got to prepare for the 5 different hand-ins. I've got 5 different sauces that I've got to cook up and get ready." So I was sitting there at the competition making all my rubs and sauces before I'd even had a chance to put the meat on, and everybody went, "Mate, no, you can pre-make the rubs and sauces. It's just the meat that's got to be done on site at the competition." So the next year was much smoother. We got to leave 2/3 of the stuff here at the house and just pre-made everything. So
Yeah.
and
When you said, "Mate," no, just brings back memories of being over there. It's like, oh wow, what a long time ago. Yeah, I get that. No, sorry, it's just me reminiscing there while you were saying that, mate. No, not like that. Sorry, just carry on. I just sort of lost it a little bit there. By apologies.
no, that's all right. That's all right. Mate is one of those words where it all comes down to the tone of voice at the time.
Yeah.
It can be friendly. It can be like a warning. It can be a threat. It can be encouraging. It can be a put down. It's one of those words. It all comes down to the delivery.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So many funny times. It's really, really making me reminisce a little bit, to be honest, and sort of like things going through my head, what we got up to. It's like, young English idiots running around Australia getting wrecked every night.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, we'll talk about that probably in a little while. So yeah, so back to your competition. So you were making up all the rubs on sites and stuff like that. That's really, really cool. Talk about putting some work in. You must have been up at like 3 a.m. just to get the pit before you've even lit the pit, prepping everything.
I barely slept for 48 hours. Like so you bumped in on the Friday night, and Friday night was the big party night.
Mm.
And then Saturday morning was when you sort of get everything all like finalized and set up and get everything ready. And then there was team briefing at about 10 a.m. And I think cooking windows opened at midday, and then you'd cook Saturday night or Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, and then hand in on from, I think, memory 6 years ago now, I think first hand in was about 8 a.m. on Sunday morning. And then last hand in was around midday, and then you wait for an hour or two for the, probably 2 or 3 hours for the judging to finish up and announce the winners. And then you've got to pack everything up and get home and unpack it all back at home and fall into bed and get up in the morning and go to work again on Monday. So yeah, it was pretty tiring.
Mm. Yeah, but it must have been so. Where can you see the barbecue culture sort of heading now? Obviously, you touched upon the live fire cooking and stuff like that, because I know in the UK we're definitely, well, we're sort of well into that sort of thing now, and I'd say we're probably breaking away into kind of a UK-ish flavor profile. We're not quite there yet, but everything obviously is still heavily echoed from America, because that's where everything's come from and everything you've seen on the TV. So, like you touched on lamb earlier. What would you typically use to season like lamb flavors and stuff like that over here, or over there? Sorry.
Yeah, so lamb is really interesting. We have we inherited the Sunday family roast lamb from our well, most of our English ancestors.
Mm,
And so when it comes to the lamb rubs, they're always savory rubs. So there's
mm,
always quite a bit of salt in there. But aside from that, you got rubs that sort of go different ways. So there's one rub that's available here that's made in Victoria. It's quite herby.
right.
There's your mint leaves and your parsley leaves and all that sort of stuff. And when you pick it up, it almost looks like a bottle of like Italian pasta herbs or something,
Mm,
um, but with a lot more salt. And then you go to the other end, and you've got rubs like from my friend at Jackalope Trading Co. And he's got a lamb rub that is just all spice. There's no herbs. And I haven't actually worked out quite what's in that yet, but it is it's quite salty, savory, little bit of heat. It's very unique, and you get a really nice finish on the lamb. It's not kind of flaky like some of the more leafy rubs.
mm,
Um, but we've got things like lemon myrtle over here, goes quite nicely on a bit of lamb or chicken as well. It goes well on chicken. There's a few lemony type rubs on the market now.
mm,
Um, and yeah, I mean, that's the most important thing ultimately when it comes to lamb is salt. Like lamb,
mm.
lamb loves a bit of salt. And we actually have a type of lamb over here called saltbush lamb,
All
and
right.
it eats a bush that grows in the salt flats. Is my understanding of it. It's not from my region. It's
Mm.
from South Australia, and I'm like a good couple thousand kilometers away from there. But my understanding is that they've got some large kind of salt flats over there that grow bushes and salt bush, and the lambs eat the salt bush, and it all comes out tasting really, really lovely.
So like self-marinating, really, by the sounds of things.
Pretty much, pretty much. I mean, I spent 2 years living in South Korea, and South Koreans kept trying to tell me to travel to Jeju Island to go and try the dongdueji. And I couldn't work out what dongdueji was. And so
Mm.
I sat down with a dictionary. This is 2003, long before Google Translate. Sat down with a dictionary and I worked it out, and it translates to poop pigs. And I went back to them and I said, "What is a poop pig? Like dong is poop and dweji is pig. Like, what is this? And there's a type of pig over there that apparently it's delicious. Koreans rave about it. They love it. It is a type of pig that only eats human feces.
Hmm. I'm not quite sure that that's a winner for me, mate.
That was
Did you-
that was much my response as well when I worked out what it was.
Give that a pass. It's nice, yeah. Yeah, I was talking to someone a little while ago that they do like a cat poo coffee as well. I think that's it. Ty from ProQ, he was on. We were talking about this coffee you can get, really expensive coffee. Cats eat this coffee bean, and then they go around collect the cat poo and then manufacture it into coffee and sell it in really expensive places like Harrods, and it's supposed to be like silly money for like I think it's like £100 for less than 250 grams or something like that. It's really high end coffee, but basically what it is, these cats wander around, eat the coffee beans, process them. Someone has the job again to pick up these processed coffee beans and then turn it into coffee. And it wouldn't be very high on my list. If they'd done it in Costa, I don't think it'd sell very well. Put it that way.
Is that not like a bit of an urban legend? Because I've heard something similar, but it was like goat poop or something. It was like goats had eaten the coffee beans and then they pick up the goat poops and put it in or something like.
No, it's a thing. Look it up in Harrods.
It is?
Like, yeah, you can buy it in Harrods in the UK. I can't remember the actual name of it, but Google cat poo coffee and it'll come up. It's like, wow.
I'm doing it
People
right now. Oh wow, Kopi Luwak. Coffee beans that transversed the gastrointestinal tract of an Asian palm civet. Well, they certainly
we
make
go.
it sound fancy.
James is his Asian palm civet. This just popped up in the chat.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, there. James, man, he knows all. James knows all.
That's pretty low on my it's not exactly Nescafe, you know what I mean? or Dow Egberts if you want to be posh.
Wow. US $1,300 per kilo for wild collected beans. That's madness. Anyway.
Yeah, Johnny Mag's on it as well. It's over obviously in America as well. Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
Low, I wouldn't imagine being the poor guy who's got to go around and collect the beans. You know, what did you do? This morning.
Look, I tell you what, for $1,300 US a kilo, I'd be out there with some rubber gloves and picking up some cat poop. I tell you what.
I wonder if they farm it or I suppose they must farm them. They couldn't have them just randomly wandering around the wild looking for palm civet poop.
It does say that it does say that they are that there are farmed and there are wild.
Mm.
So interesting.
I reckon they'd be pretty wild if they're sitting around eating like coffee beans all the day. They'd be well wired, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Cats are frisky enough. You give them a load of coffee. Good God. You want to make sure they kept out of the way of the young kids or whatever. They'd be flying around. It's crazy.
Yeah, you'd certainly hear about it pretty quick.
For sure. Yeah, John's put a shitty job. That's probably true enough.
Yeah. I see what you did there, Johnny. Nice one.
Right, so I'm going to sort of try and round it off a little bit now. We're going a while. So what's the most exotic meat you've eaten?
Ooh. Okay. So wow. All right. So in terms of Australia, I've had kangaroo. We do have kangaroo available in supermarkets now. Even though it is a protected species, there are so many kangaroos now that there are certain businesses and hunters and things that have a government approved quota to go out and hunt and process kangaroo. So we now do have kangaroo meat available in supermarkets, which is actually quite nice. I don't mind it. My wife can't stand it, so we don't actually really eat it in the house, but I quite like it. I grew up on a goat farm, so I love eating goats. Goat meat is really good. It's really similar to lamb, but I find lamb leaves a bit like a fatty taste on the roof of your mouth, whereas goat doesn't. It's still got that similar flavor, but just without that really fatty aftertaste. So
Yeah.
I always love to get a bit of goat if I can find some and put some of that on. What other exotic meats have I had? When I was in Korea, I ate silkworm. It's called bondegi.
All right.
And I did it because basically my Korean friend bullied me into it because he thought it was funny that that I couldn't stand the smell of it because they when I was living there they would cook it in these little street vending carts on the side of the road, and I could smell them from 2 blocks away because they to me the smell of it just turned my stomach. And I was out on the beers with my Korean mate, and he basically sort of just harassed me into trying this silkworm, and it's almost like a stew, and they scoop out like a paper cup of these stewed bugs, and my Korean buddy just goes mad for it, absolutely goes mad for it, and I can't get anywhere near it. So I did try that. What did I have in Mexico? I had something in Mexico. Oh, I went to a restaurant in Mexico, and they had um, pulpo asado, which is barbecued octopus. And so when you order barbecued octopus here in Australia, you get like little mini ones, like little baby octopuses that are just kind of tossed on a grill, very quickly charred and then pulled off. So I thought, great, like I love a bit of barbecued octopus. I'll have that. And what came out was it was almost like a whole octopus, this giant thing. The tentacles were like almost as round as my wrist, kind of thing. And that it had barely been cooked, and so like I had to send it back and say, look, I'm really sorry, but can you like burn this for me? Like I need I need it charred. I need crunchy on the outside. And so I had pulpo asado. But one experience that I did have in Mexico that was really interesting was the fella that was he was the maintenance man of the marina that my parents-in-law's boat was being stored at. That's a long story, but basically my parents-in-law got cleaned out by the global financial crisis and couldn't afford to live in America anymore. And the only place where they could afford to live on his serviceman's pension was Mexico. Anyway, so they had this tiny little 20-foot, 25-foot sailboat that they lived on. Anyway, he took us out to because he found out that I was into barbecue, and took us out to a traditional Mexican barbecue restaurant. And what it was a long channel, like a long, deep channel dug into the ground. And they had racks of ribs and half chickens. That was all they did. They did pork ribs and chickens, and they would they'd build a little fire down in the channel, and they would basically run a stake through the ribs or through the chicken, and then the stake down into the ground, and they just sort of let the fire down in the ground, sort of roast these ribs and chicken as they were not horizontally over the fire, but vertically alongside the fire, like staked into the ground. And it was fantastic, and it was only seasoned with salt, pepper, and then squeezed with orange over the top.
That sounds pretty cool.
And served with icy cold Corona with a bit of lime in it. Oh, magic! It was so good. Some of the best barbecue that I've ever had, and it was right in the middle of El Chapo country. So there were like massive military checkpoints and cartel cars running around and all that sort of stuff. But the maintenance guy from the marina assured us that because we were with a local, we'd be okay. So yeah, we were.
This is what you want to hear.
Yeah. Well, because I was asking, like, why, like, at all of the town borders, there were these massive military setups, and there'd be 15 soldiers there, and they've got I think they're called technicals. They're like pickup trucks with giant 50 cal machine guns mounted on the back, and there was one or two that had like not like tanks, not like big giant tanks, but like little sort of mini things with like a giant gun thing on it. I don't know. I'm Australian. My gun my gun terminology is not very good.
Yeah, same.
And I was asking, why are all the town borders guarded? And it was because we were actually right dead smack in the middle of El Chapo country, and there was a big war going on between the military and the cartel.
Good God. That's when you know you're in a situation. Don't worry, you'll be okay with a local. That's probably the last sentence you want to hear before you go out. Like the alarm bells, like bing, bing, bing.
Well, we were actually over there because my mother-in-law was in her final stages of life from cancer, and the hospital was over an hour's drive away from the marina. And I said to my father-in-law, I said, "This is ridiculous. We're paying a fortune in taxi fees to get there and back every day. I'm just going to hire a car and we'll just drive in and out." And he said, "No, we're going to stay with the locals." I said, "Why is that?" And he said, "Because foreigners found on their own here at the moment end up beheaded on the side of the road." And I kind of thought he was just sort of saying that to scare me. And then we ended up back here in Australia. And then a couple of months later, that family full of Mormons in the SUV got attacked by the cartel and got very brutally, horribly murdered. So he was not wrong. And I sort of looked back on it and went, "That was good advice."
Yeah. Christ, that's mind blowing. Absolutely mind blowing. That. Well, obviously it does happen, and it's sort of life. But good God.
Oh,
Scary.
sorry. I do have one more great story about different funny things that I've eaten. So I can speak a little bit of Korean. I can speak what I call survival level Korean. I can order food. I can give taxi drivers directions. I can tell a doctor where it hurts, but I can't sit down in a coffee shop and just have a conversation. And my wife and I went to a restaurant before work one night, and it was a chicken restaurant. And I could work out from the sign writing that it was spicy chicken. I'm like, great, I love spicy chicken. And I went in there, and there were some other words on the menu that I didn't know. And I just took a shot. I went, okay, give me one of them and one of them. And out comes these two plates. And one of them was obviously chicken feet. We could look at that and we could work out what that was. That was like scaldingly spicy chicken feet. And the other one with these little cubes, like sort of deep fried cubes. And I went, okay, well, let's stick to the cubes because, eating chicken feet is not something that we're real comfortable with. And so I'm eating these little cubes thinking that they're going to be like nuggets or something, or like chopped chicken breast. I'm like, okay, well, I got 1 out of 2. And I pick one up and I eat it and it's crunchy. I'm like, why is this crunchy? And I pulled it out and I sort of lifted off the breading of it. It was chicken skulls.
Wow.
So I'd managed to order 1 plate of spicy chicken skulls and 1 plate of spicy chicken feet.
You've gone for the most macabre things on the menu.
But they must have thought that I was some kind of like voodoo king or something. Like they just, I got the feet and the skulls, and
you'd be safe in that restaurant, eh? If you leave the guy, he's eating the skulls and the feet. He's good.
Yeah. They'd be looking at me going, well, he's almost a local. Let's just leave him alone. But it was so spicy afterwards that we had to actually go to a 24-hour chemist that was directly across the road from this restaurant. It was so spicy that we had to go to the chemist, and I was trying to explain to the chemist how we were feeling and what we needed, and he just couldn't get it. I just couldn't get the words together. And in the end, I just pointed across the road at the spicy chicken shop, and he went, okay, you need this, and this. And he fixed us up, and we took the medicine, and our stomachs calmed down, and we went off to work for the night. So,
good God. So did you try the chicken? I've heard chicken feet are nice, but I can't say I've ever tried them, but it's supposed to be all right.
The chicken feet weren't too bad, to be honest. I think that's just a weird cultural thing that we have here in Australia. We just don't eat chicken feet. But the chicken feet were much nicer than the chicken skulls. The chicken skulls did not get eaten.
I don't blame you, mate. I would have been with you on that one. I've been
Yeah.
sort of both rock up and be like, "Sorry, have you got anything else?
Yeah.
Anything other than the skulls and the feet would be good." Yeah, that's fantastic. I've never heard of chicken skulls before. That's a new one on me. Chicken feet, yeah. I'll probably have a nibble, but chicken skulls. Did it have the beak on? Did you find?
Yeah, some of them did. Like once I sort of peeled the breading back, I was like, oh, okay. All right. That's what's crunchy.
Oh. Oh. That's pretty funky.
Mm.
So we're going to move into a little bit of a quick fire round now. It's called the hot fire cues round. I'm going to ask you a series of questions that have been put in by former guests to the
Oh,
show.
all right. Okay.
So what I'd like you to do is also think of a question for me to add on to the end of the list. I want to apologise up front for last night's guest, Jeff from Dead Broke Barbecue. I edited last night's show before we done this one, and I haven't had a chance to pick up your question, so I'll put that in for next week. So here we go for the hot fire cues round. Right.
Mm-hmm.
You ready?
Yep.
Just say whatever comes into your mind after being asked a question. Right. So
Okay.
hot and fast or low and slow?
Low and slow.
Day or night?
Night.
Beer or spirit?
Beer.
Lump or briquette?
Lump.
Pork or beef?
Beef.
Ribs, wet or dry?
Ooh, dry. But I like to serve them with sauce on the side so that people can make their own mind up.
Okay. So shrimp or meat?
Shrimp or meat?
I think that's more seafood or meat.
Seafood or okay. Meat. But I do still love a lot of seafood as well.
Mm-hmm. Would you wrap it or let it ride?
Depends what it is. If it's pork ribs, I wrap it. If it's brisket, I wrap it. If it's beef ribs, I usually let them ride.
Okay. Burgers or hot dog?
Burgers. Hot dogs are gross.
Horse, yay or nay?
Oh, that's very punny. Look, I would
See
I
what
would
you
have to.
did there, mate.
Did you not see what they did there?
No, I saw it. Yeah, come straight up.
Oh,
No, I
okay.
knew that. It says, but you said very punny. I thought that was quite cool as well.
Oh, okay. Okay. Look, if it was on the menu, I would have to give it a try at least once.
Okay.
But I do love horses. I grew up riding horses on the farm, so it's kind of like asking me to eat a dog. I love dogs. Dogs are my best friends. So
So, brisket or short ribs?
oh, short ribs.
Favorite non-meat thing to grill?
God, is there a non-meat thing to grill? Look, corn. I quite like corn on the cob grilled.
Mm-hmm.
And tomatoes. Tomatoes are great as well.
Okay. So, smoked or grilled?
Smoked.
Fat up or fat down?
Given the types of barbecues that I cook on, it's fat up.
Wood or charcoal?
Again, it depends on the cooker. Usually it's a combination of the both because I get too impatient having to feed a log into the thing every 30 minutes. So I'll throw some lumps of charcoal in there so it burns a bit longer between having to throw another log on.
Okay, so the best way to light a stick burner?
Oh, okay. So I like to use something that that Rod from Ministry of Smoke told me about called the hashtag method. And so I'll put two sticks parallel to each other, and then two sticks parallel to each other but perpendicular to the ones below them, and then dump a chimney full of lit charcoal down the middle and let that sort of burn out and build a nice coal base before I even start thinking about putting meat on.
Nice. So then we got sweet or savory?
Oh, again, it depends on the protein. Sweet pork, sweet chicken, savory red meat.
Okay, that was a Mark Williams question.
Okay.
Rum or whiskey?
Oh God. Whiskey.
Cool.
But I don't really but I don't really drink either except for Fireball.
Fair enough. That's the end of the hot fire cues round. So
Okay, there you go.
Can you think of a question to add?
Ooh, like thighs or wings?
Perfect. I'll add that in.
Chicken skin, scrape or jacquard? That could be a good one.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with what a jacquard is, or
I'll Google it, but you can explain it if you want.
so one of the techniques that a lot of people use at competitions when they're cooking chicken thighs is they'll actually remove the skin from the outside of the thigh, turn it upside down, and then scrape the fat away.
Mm-hmm.
And then put the skin back onto the chicken thigh and wrap it around. And some people have different methods for pinning it in place, or just wrap or tying it or whatever. And then there's another school of people that say, forget that. That's too much. That's too much work. That's ridiculous. Because it can take a really long time to do, 12 chicken thigh skins to get, 6 good pieces from your 12 pieces to give to the judges. And so a jacquard kind of almost looks like a burger press, but it's got a whole bunch of little tiny knives built into the top part of it, and it's spring activated. So it sort of punches down into the chicken and it perforates a whole bunch of little holes all over the top of the chicken. And what that does is, as the chicken's slowly cooking, the fat liquefies and the fat can escape. And so that can be a lot quicker than sitting there and scraping all the chicken thighs. The chicken thigh skins, because you want to avoid the judges getting that big mouthful of liquid fat when they're biting those chicken thighs. And it also helps to get that bite through skin if that layer of fat's removed from the underside of the skin. So yeah, maybe scrape or jacquard would be a good question to add.
I'll add that in. That sounds perfect. That's a bit of a curveball for some people, so that'd be a good one. Yeah, that's cool. Cheers, mate. So the final question of the interview we've got here, it's not really barbecue related, but I'll ask it anyway. It's sort of what are your top 3 favorite albums or music?
Oh, okay. Wow. All right. So I'm going to be kind of showing my age here, showing my teenage years. The Eric Clapton Unplugged album, I think from like 1994, I think that was. Love that album. I used to play guitar semi-professionally, and when I was a teenager, I'd sat myself in my bedroom one summer school holidays for the 6-week summer school holiday break, and I had my mum had bought me the CD, and then I harassed her to buy me the songbook, and I sat there with the songbook and the CD and played it 2 seconds at a time and read the music and learned how to play every single song cover to cover.
Wow.
Off the whole Eric Clapton Unplugged album. And 30 years later, I can still play most of them.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's definitely one of them. Eric Clapton Unplugged. What would be another one? Some of the Dave Matthews and Tim Reynolds live at Luther College. It's a very specific live Dave Matthews album. Dave Matthews and Tim Reynolds live at Luther College. Amazing guitar work. Like these two guys just sitting there playing 2 acoustic guitars together. Just incredible. Absolutely amazing. And the third one, I like a lot of Aussie hip hop. Aussie hip hop tends to be a lot more positive and a lot more nicer to women than a lot of other hip hop music out there. So I quite like the stuff by Hilltop Hoods, and I can never remember the name of the specific album, but it pops up on Spotify, and I just love it. Whatever the album was, it had Cosby Sweater on it. On Google, don't let me down. Walking Under Stars. Hilltop Hoods, Walking Under Stars.
All right. I'll have to give that a listen. I like a bit of hip hop myself. I've never really heard Aussie hip hop, so that should be quite an interesting thing to get my ears on or get my ears around.
Yeah, well, check them out. That's they're Hilltop Hoods. They're from South Australia. There's another group that I quite like, Bliss and Esso. They're actually cousins. One of them's American and one of them's Australian, and they each record in their respective studios and then mix it together on their computers. They've got some quite good stuff as well.
That's nice. Oh, that's cool. Well, yeah. So that sort of brings the interview round to a bit of an end. But I'd like to say thank you so much for coming on, Ben. It's been fascinating. It's been a really, really nice interview. I feel a nice sort of, it flowed really well. It was good conversation. I really enjoyed it. It's been brilliant. As I said, thank you for. I feel like I could talk to you for ages. Just because you're just a guy who's really easy to talk to. So brilliant, absolutely fantastic. So if you could tell everybody about where your social medias are and how they can find you, that'd be awesome, mate.
Yeah, so we're at Smoking Hot Confessions on everything except Twitter. On Twitter, we're on BBQ Confessions because I didn't have enough digit space to put Smoking Hot Confessions in for Twitter. So we're Smoking Hot Confessions on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Although I don't do much on TikTok, to be honest. But yeah, everywhere except Twitter, we're Smoking Hot Confessions. The website's smokinghotconfessions.com. As I said, we are doing an exclusive push on YouTube at the moment. We are putting all our cooking videos exclusively over there. And so if you want to head over there and give us a subscribe and check them out, we'd really appreciate that as well. We do have some really interesting stuff lined up coming out in the future. I've got a lineup of different businesses that I'm going to be working with over the next couple of months, showcasing their different products and how they all work and all that sort of stuff as well. So we do reviews, we do cooking videos, all that sort of stuff as well. So all of the content goes on YouTube. So the video versions of the podcast are also up there as well. We're all over all the different audio platforms. So if you just want to listen to the audio version, we've got that as well. And yeah, come along, join us, the Smoking Hot Confessions barbecue community over on Facebook. We would really love to have you over there.
Oh, also, I forgot. There's one last question that actually Charlie always pops in at the end, or has done. Who would you like to see on the show next? If you could see anyone, what guest would you like to come on?
Ooh, on your show or my show?
On my show. Like Charlie normally pops that. I just remembered he's asked that a couple of times, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I didn't answer that. Let's remember. Sorry.
Well, we were talking about Meathead before, but you've already had him on. He was a great guest that I just had recently. Some other people that I've had on recently, Mark Lambert is a really interesting guy you could reach out to and bring him on the show. He's multiple world champion winning. He goes to Memphis in May every year and walks away with at least one trophy, He's built a huge business up out of it, Sweet Swine of Mine Distributing. He's got his own rubs and sauces, and then he distributes a bunch of other people's stuff as well. And he does a whole bunch of different charity work with Operation Barbecue Relief and Steaks for Sheepdogs. So he's a really interesting guy to talk to. Australian people, there's Andrew Kavanagh from the Q Club. It's a really iconic barbecue restaurant down here in Victoria. Hayden Graham from Sydney. He was my most recent guest just last week. We've got some of our most significant competitors who are always on for a good chat. Lucas Armstrong from Roll and Smoke is a semi-regular guest on the show. He's always got some interesting stuff to say. Jumping back over to the States again, you've got Sean Walchef from Cali Comfort Barbecue in San Diego. He is cutting edge. He's got his podcast as well as his incredible different barbecue shops and that. He's into ghost kitchens at the moment, it's the bleeding edge of restauranteering. And so that was really interesting as well. And if you wanted to talk to some people who are into barbecue content creation, two Aussies that would be good to talk to about that would be Aaron Palmer from Low and Slow Basics. He's blowing up on YouTube at the moment, absolutely blowing up. And snapping on his heels is Dean Schumann from Shuey's Barbecue. So Aaron's from South Australia, Shuey's from Melbourne, from Victoria, and they're great guys as well. So there's a bit of a spread for you. There's some competitors, some some guys that do barbecue charity work, some content creators, some restaurateurs. There's a bunch of different names for you.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, that's really cool. I like the idea of the Australian barbecue content creators. I might have to chase them up, and yeah, obviously the list is amazing. So yeah, I'll get my little pen and paper out and start hitting them up and see what comes back. You know the game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's right. We'll swap guest recommendations off air.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I could probably help, to be honest.
Yeah.
Okay then. Well, thanks for coming on the show, and thanks for a great interview. And we'll speak soon. So that's the BBQ
Thanks.
Talk Show. Go check Ben out on all his social medias, and head over to Australia and see what's going on over there on all the YouTube channels. So thank you once again. You've been fantastic, and we'll speak soon.
Thanks for having me, mate. I much appreciated.
Oh, just got to do this little bit, run the banner, and then we're done.